Good afternoon. Welcome to the City of Urbana Arts and Culture Commission meeting on Tuesday, December the 10th, 2024 at 4:30 p.m. First item on our agenda today is the call to order and roll call.
Alicia Rodriguez.
Present.
Sarah Buckman.
Present.
Barbara Hedlund.
Present.
Hannah Andreessen.
Present.
Mark Anthony Macon.
Present.
Xander Hazel.
Present.
The next item on our agenda today is the approval of minutes from the previous meeting. Do we have a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion.
Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. It has passed. The next item on our agenda this afternoon is additions to the agenda today.
No additions.
Great, thank you. And do we have any public input this afternoon?
No public input.
Good, we can go to presentations. And we have a distinguished visitor. Our first presentation will be for the Urbana Pops Orchestra. Deborah Larson is here to make a presentation on their 2024 grant.
Welcome.
Right? Ooh, that would be nice. I need better diction. Grant.
And there might be a button on the bottom at the base of the microphone just to turn on if it's not green.
That's green, yeah. Okay. This was Urbana Pops Orchestra's 15th season of offering free music educational opportunities and free performances in this community. Offering a high-quality, full orchestra concert for free is an enormous undertaking. The fact that UPO pays a stipend to each adult musician and yet continues to offer the concert for free is a huge challenge that could not be accomplished without this grant from the City of Urbana. As we like to say, free concerts are not free. We are extremely grateful for your support in helping UPO provide fun concerts for free in accessible venues and a unique music educational opportunity for young youth musicians. This year's concert in Urbana High School's beautiful auditorium included 73 local musicians, 19 of whom were area high school students. That's where the Urbana Arts and Culture Grant goes, primarily to pay our 54 professional musicians so we can provide a musical educational opportunity for the talented students. And we're proud of the fact that we do pay, because there are a lot of community orchestras that don't. They're just playing out of the goodness of their hearts, and we feel like they deserve every penny they get. Concert week actually begins at the high school with 2 rehearsals for student musicians only. They get a chance to work through the more difficult parts of the music, and then on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, the full orchestra is present. Rags to Rhapsody was held on Saturday, June 15th at Urbana High School to a packed audience of all ages. In celebration of Urbana Pops Orchestra's 15th season, we created a PowerPoint of photos from every year, beginning at Lincoln Square and going all over town back to the high school. And we rotated that on the screen above the stage while the audience arrived. And then we gave out those window clings. We tucked them inside the office, or inside the programs. The concert was yet another example of the creative programming that Urbana Pops Orchestra is known for. Conductor Stephen Larson kicked off the program with an original short fanfare entitled Pops Goes the Weasel, with variations on the children's song. Cast members, this is a tradition as well, cast members from Urbana Park District's youth summer musical Oliver sang Food, Glorious Food with the orchestra. This was the inspiration for the Rags portion of the concert. Later in the summer, members of the UPO provided the pit orchestra for the Park District production at Parkland. The preview at our concert helps promote their summer production, and it also brings many families and young children to our concert, which is one of our goals. Additionally, the Rags theme, for the Rags theme, we heard music from the musical Ragtime with Justin Brower on piano. The Rhapsody portion of Rags to Rhapsody was Gershwin's Rhapsody in Blue, with the winner of this year's Shambana International Music Competition Concerto Division at the Steinway, Urbana High School rising junior Cavender Patel. It was appropriately the 100th anniversary of the piece, making it even more special when hearing it played by a teenager. Urbana Pops has done this several times using animations or movies and played along with them on the screen above the orchestra. And the conductor really wanted to play a feature-length film. We explored the idea of The Wizard of Oz, but the cost for these things are so prohibitive. It was like 20 grand for one performance, and that didn't include bringing in a special crew and equipment, and there's just a lot of extras, and it would really add up to close to $50,000, plus paying the musicians would be $50,000 to do it once. So instead, because we received a grant from the Community Foundation of East Central Illinois this year to purchase stand lights, we really wanted to use them this year to show them in action. And so we got a hold of a very funny, a 1920 short film by Buster Keaton called 1 Week. This proved to be an audio and video challenge to produce. UPO rented a score composed by Carl Davis in 1987. Actually, Keaton wrote a score, but it wasn't as good. So we did he's good at the comedy, oh my gosh. But we did get the score by Carl Davis that was written for orchestra. It mimics the style of the 20s era. It includes character themes, when the villain comes on and the young bride comes on. And the uniqueness of the film attracted a very different audience. A lot of senior members of the audience had never been to the concert before. And it exposed the children in the audience to something that's just a forgotten art form. We got numerous requests from the audience and donations later after the concert was over that we should do this sort of thing again. They recognize that it's difficult, but we felt like giving them the audience that unique experience really elevated the importance of music in film. And it also gave the children in the audience the opportunity to experience that. Even the musicians said that they enjoyed hearing the audience laughing and responding to the music and the images on the screen as something they'd never experienced before. The evening ended with an encore featuring Jacques Offenbach's, I guess you pronounce it Galop Infernal, from the Orpheus in the Underworld, but it's more commonly known as Can-Can.
That's the end of it.
Yeah.
That's the end of the piece.
I think you can,
There's
yes,
more-
at the
there's more
end,
to
at the
it,
very
yeah.
end as an encore, we played that.
That's like William Tell. Nobody knows the beginning, they just remember
Right,
the finale.
right. Yes, absolutely. The theme, it comes in and they can all dance to it. All of these musical pieces are perfectly aligned with Urbana Pops Orchestra's mission to bring accessible orchestral music to the community, a fun blend of timeless classics, show tunes, and that unique visual edition of Buster Keaton's silent film. I'd like to show you just the first couple of minutes of the film so you can see the kind of response we got. You can actually hear the audience laughing at one point. Audio? bring joy to the couple. I don't know if you know the story of the movie, but he gives them a do-it-yourself house kit, which was common in the 20s. But just before they open it up, he sneaks over and he changes the numbers on all the boxes. So it goes together as this just contraption that it's just, it's crazy. Anyway, thank you again so much for this. This support means everything to Urbana Pops. Questions?
Thank you. I was at the concert. It was just amazing.
Oh, great.
It was a lot of fun. And it was my introduction to the Urbana Pops. I wasn't able to make some previous concerts that you've
I'm
had
so
outdoors.
glad you could come.
So it was great. And it's wonderful to see it was really, I was very impressed with the musicians, how they kept up with the film. It was amazing, but just everything. It was just a joyful time, and it was great to see the children at the end singing and everything. And it was wonderful. Thank you so much. And I'm looking forward to more events like this and performances. Thanks.
I'm so sad that I missed this. It sounds like it was a wonderful time. So even though it is really hard to do, I hope you do some more silence and accompany them that way.
It's a nightmare. We had the projector in the audience. Well, first their projector broke. So we had to locate another projector that week. We got a cable. There's cables that run all the way down under the seats and up onto the stage because Stephen has a projector a monitor that he looks at, and he has headphones and a click track, so that's kind of awkward. But he also the percussionists had to have their own monitor because, oh, sorry, Erna. Some of the cues for the things that they had to hit or do did not have like a musical cue, like it wasn't on a beat or something. It was just like we had to have a sound machine. We tried to get a 1920 sound machine, but they cannot be had. So we looked on the internet, and the internet said that you can get the same sound from a bicycle wheel with you spin it with you hold ripstop fabric on it. So that's what we did. For 2.5 minutes, they had to spin this thing, but that's an example of it. And like I said, the music, he said, was not difficult, but it constantly changes both style and tempo. So yeah, it was a lot. But yeah, we got that kind of response after the fact. We got a lot of donations at the concert, and then the next week we got 11 donations with letters, with cards in the mail saying, "Thank you for doing this. We hope you do it again." Yeah, we've never had that kind of response, so that was nice. And it was the longest piece I think we've ever done. It was 24 minutes. But because it's visual and it's funny, a little kid can sit through it and enjoy it.
You know what's going to happen to the competition? Is someone taking that over?
Yeah, that was the first question I asked when I heard one of the directors was leaving.
Right.
There are more people on the staff, and they've already selected next year's. It's a piece by Sanson, but I don't know the title of it.
Probably the Egyptian concerto. I
Oh,
would
maybe,
guess.
yeah.
Or it's nicknamed the Egyptian. That's one that's very popular. I'm glad it's continuing.
Yeah. Yeah, it's. I mean, you get to really showcase a protege who never got to play with an orchestra because they always have to play with, usually their mom is an accomplished pianist and they play the orchestra part. But yeah, the students who've had the opportunity to be the soloist has had a very unique experience, and they've really enjoyed it.
Questions?
If you would like to see, so we only paid for 3 months to have it publicly available, the 1 week on our YouTube channel. But if you would like to see the whole thing, I can email you a private link. We just don't have it up there publicly anymore.
Doesn't look like at the moment we have any other presenters in-house. So shall we move on for now? Okay. So you're up. It's time for the staff report. Your cue. Good. Yeah, you didn't get to finish last time, so.
I'm going to put these things in the trash, but.
I can clean
Okay,
things up
thanks.
if you have anything else. All right, lots to share. So this is a combination of the presentation I had from last month and then also some new things that I wanted to add. And so I want to try to not go through this too quickly, but there's a lot to share. And then we'll be continuing that discussion that we started last month. I have notes from the video that we had from last month's discussion. I think we ended like halfway between Barbara, you talking, so we'll just recap and then continue. But for now, let's get to this. All right.
Kept that other committee happy, right?
What was that?
You kept the other committee
We
happy?
did. We
Okay.
kept the council happy. All right. So this first,
Right?
the first thing I wanted to share was a video that was made to kind of recap or sort of promote the night market that happened. So that was during the month of September and half of October. So we had a local photographer and videographer kind of like visit every single night market, take some footage, and make a really awesome video. So I'm hoping sound and everything will work. Ooh, yikes. How do I do this? Oh no. Darn. What? I took the fast route and I didn't want things to get out of order, so I downloaded it as a PDF.
Oh,
So the video won't play. I'm so sorry, you guys.
something to look forward to.
Yes, we'll move it to the next one.
Or you could send us a link.
I can send you, I'll do that too, because we're going to be sharing it publicly at some point, but I really wanted to share it with you guys. But anyway, we'll move on. So just an update, Sarah and I met to kind of discuss poet laureate things, and the application is officially, it's been open since December 1st, and it'll stay open until February 1st. And that can be located on our Facebook page, our Instagram, and also our website. So if you know anyone who is really interested in sort of sharing their poetry and their writings, or they know people who maybe do and they could be someone to share it, I think that we've already sort of I've gone to a couple of different poetry events in town. We're kind of keeping an eye on those, and hopefully we can kind of spread the word and get people to apply. In November, we did another craft happy hour. It was our tarot card making, and this was one that we had done last year. I just wanted to share a little bit about how it went. It was really popular. There were probably over 35 people who were at the library for this event, and the Craft Happy Hour program that we do in partnership with the Urbana Free Library is it's been really special over the past year, so I just wanted to kind of share that. Last week, we had the Artists of the Corridor opening reception here at City Hall. It's the first time in maybe a couple years that there have been just art hung up in the spaces that we have here since they did some renovations, and it was really nice. So that'll be up until mid-January, and then there will be a new exhibition, which is the artists residency program at the library. So they'll be having artwork here and at the library location. Trees and Lights. This was an initiative that started 3 years ago with We Love Urbana. And over the past couple of years, we've just tried to grow it. And essentially, it's a way for businesses and organizations in Urbana to partake in sort of cultural holiday festivities. Lots of local businesses had some light displays in their windows. We've installed some window painted artwork in some of the downtown locations. And then this year, on top of that, we added a sort of one night only immersive light pop-up on Main Street. So the people who do Immersion Fest put something really cool together, and they sort of took over Crane Alley and also did projections above Cinema Gallery. It was so cool. They set up in the cold. They figured out some really cool spots to light up the alleyways, and it was really nice to just sort of watch people check it out for as they walked by or stop and take a look. So that was running this past Saturday from 6 to 9 p.m. So it was just kind of a one-off, but hoping to see more of stuff like this around town. Here's some more, just a couple more photos. And people enjoying themselves, taking selfies and all kinds of things. All right. This Thursday, the CU BIPOC Artist Collective is having a holiday card making workshop at Fresh Press Studios. It's going to be just open to anyone who wants to gather and make some art using handmade paper, do some collaging, and it's going to be a good time. So that's at Fresh Press from 5:30 to 8 on Thursday. I wanted to just kind of go through some of the upcoming events before I dive into the utility box murals that's on our staff report, but this is Riggs. Riggs Christmas Market is going to be happening this weekend. Mistletoe Market is happening this weekend at Lincoln Square Mall. And I think next Thursday there's a mask making event at the IMC. So there's some fun stuff happening. Okay, so I'm gonna come around. 40 North and I have been working on the utility box murals. So we have a new round of murals or artwork that was submitted, and there were a lot of pieces that were submitted, so we kind of whittled those down just in terms of like feasibility. And so I have some work that I want you guys to sort of look at. I have a packet here that I'll give you, but then also I'll go through this presentation.
On this first screen, is her artwork still above City Hall in the opening entrance? Is that still her hostess?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, so I don't have all of the names, and I thought we could just kind of go through them without saying the names and titles, just because not all of them have titles. But this is the artwork that was sort of, there was a call for 4 different locations for utility box murals. One's on Main Street next to Heel to Toe. One would possibly be outside of Paradiso, Cafe Paradiso. One would be on Windsor and Philo, kind of like diagonal from the Pines. And then there is another possibility of having one at Lincoln and Florida. So There are more locations, but these are sort of the ones that we were looking at. So none of these are like options for any specific one. It's really choosing the top 4 out of all of these and sort of going through those. So for the sake of just capturing this on the UPTV, I'm going to be going through these. Right. So essentially what's going to happen is I'll be sending out an anonymous survey for all of these, and you'll be ranking them, one being your top choice and then all the way down to 10. And basically by having each person rank it, we'll be able to kind of figure out the top 4 overall for everyone. I'll bring that information back to you at our next meeting, and then that sort of serves as a recommendation for selecting the final 4, if that makes sense.
Vivian,
Yeah.
can you share how you and 40 North had selected these of those that came through? Did you have certain criteria that you were looking at already?
Yeah. Some of the criteria is like image quality and shape. So like having something that's scanned, or like a photograph that's capturing all the detail, versus like, you know, lighting being something that might make it hard for someone to see the image. Variety, so just kind of trying to represent different mediums, even though this is going to be a flat surface. This is like a really interesting way to take photographs of different like mixed media work and then have it be printed on a 2D surface, but then wrapped around a 3D surface. So we kind of just wanted to see what all was, you know, I don't know exactly how to put it, but just making sure there was a variety. And that was pretty much it. Mm-hmm.
Applicants did you have?
I think there were about 25. Yeah. And also there were duplicates from other artists too, so just kind of making sure that there were you know, not too many that were from one person. And also artists who have already, there is more. Artists who have already been selected for like murals on glass, for instance, or if they already have a utility box, making sure that there's opportunity for a new artist to have their work on that too.
With some of these having different dimensions, did you already consider, you know, you don't have them picked out, you know, I want this one by heel to toe, but would these all still be feasible with these different shapes?
Yeah, 40 North, Kelly will take work from an artist and try to fit it on the utility box and use different components of that piece. Like if it was a square and we really need it to wrap, she might do like a little bit of like editing to make sure that there's full coverage happening, or like zooming in to get a piece that's maybe representing more texture. So she'll be working with an artist or with the artists to kind of solidify that, but also once we have things selected, she can kind of send us more visuals to see what it looks like, kind of like how she did for the murals on glass when we took a look at those. So she can also do that, but it's a little bit trickier with the utility boxes.
Okay, thank you.
Long answer.
And you guys are using Dean's graphics? Mm-hmm. Okay. And they do mapping as well, so they'll have like all the vents and slits and things.
Yeah.
They'll map that out so that's not covered. So they're pretty precise.
Yeah, they actually go to the locations before we get the quotes, and they'll kind of assess each of them and then let us know what it's going to cost based on that.
Okay, great, thanks.
Would this be a project in the spring or the summer that you're hoping?
I believe that the installation will be in the summer, so when it's warmer out. Yeah.
Cool.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, how long, what's the lifespan of these before Mother Nature takes its toll? Couple
It's supposed to
years?
be 10 years. And like we have utility boxes that were kind of installed maybe 3 years ago and 2 years ago, maybe. And they're still looking pretty much in perfect condition, which is really great. Awesome.
I really think this is a cool project. I love that it's been consistently built upon and using something that would be considered kind of ugly and then, you know, encasing it with local art. I think it's just a really cool idea, and I love to see that. How about roughly how expensive are utility boxes, like a single one?
One is, I would say, between 1,100 to 1,500.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think that by spending that much and knowing that it's going to last so long is pretty awesome. A lot of different cities have utility like mural programs, and some of them are, you know, very temporary paint or just acrylic or outdoor paint that they seal, and they definitely don't last as long. I think what's great about this is it's also pretty accessible for someone who might not be able to do an outdoor mural and spend that time in the hot sun painting utility box. So, and you know, like having a collage artist who is able to do the work that's a collage, or an oil painter who really thrives in their medium of oil, being able to kind of have that be transferred to something that's in the urban environment.
Are all the boxes about the same size?
Mm-hmm. Yes. Well, if there's no further questions on this, we can move to the discussion. So you'll be getting that link to the survey within the next week.
Oh, quick question about the murals. Can you drop in the survey, can you include like a Google Map street view, like of the mural? Like with the different location, like the utility boxes, the different locations?
Yes, I think that.
Or photos, either one works, doesn't really matter.
Yeah. I think they're listed, like they have
Oh,
the
okay.
cross streets.
Okay,
And then I do have photos of like each location, but it's not tied to like, you know, make sure you have it like number one, your top
right,
first choice is not going to be like tied to
Gotcha.
utility box one or anything like that.
okay.
So that could be like a discussion once I bring the recommendations back, is like maybe which one goes where.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I would think one might be more suitable in a certain location than another, depending on the surroundings.
Yep.
Place.
Definitely.
Thank you.
Oh yes, zooming in. All right. So, Big Move 5 discussions. I wanted to just go over kind of briefly what we talked about before, and just because like Lori's not here right now, but I thought I would just kind of pick us up where we left off and just kind of go over some things. Okay, so Lori mentioned that she really liked the idea of increasing funding overall, specifically for the grants. Definitely wanting more arts grants funded each year and seeing that pattern grow. Alicia, you are here now, but you mentioned your interest and just overall interests in the grants and how there should be more funding for the grants. And you can speak more if you'd like. You also mentioned 1 to 2 signature events that are more collaborative and more collaborative event programming versus the one large signature event. Sarah, you mentioned accessing the budget for the program and the grants, which is in your packet tonight. How much budget isn't being utilized each year, and kind of going into further conversation, and also addressing how do we use grant money that was awarded but it wasn't fulfilled, and so the project didn't happen, and what happens to that money. Streamlining events and permitting, and getting insight from businesses that attempt to get permitting and what their issues have been. And then the last that I think we got to, Barbara, you were talking about fundraising for events and for the program, and we were kind of discussing how that hasn't really been a priority just due to the tax stream of the city to the program.
And we always had to ask legal if we went in a direction to make sure we were
Yeah.
compliant.
And I mean, I don't want to like just cut the pattern off, but I'm almost wondering if we want to kind of go back and just go down the little items or the little moves, and just kind of, we can all talk about each of the little moves instead of kind of going through the list with each person.
I'd be in favor of that.
Okay. Does that sound good? And especially since we do have that budget sheet that's attached at the back, I just wanted to briefly let you guys know what's what. So the arts program is funded by general funds. That's the city general funds, and then also by receiving TIF funding. So that top portion that you see is the general funds, the bottom is TIF, and within that there are some general lines for different things like supplies, technology services, dues, memberships, that sort of thing. Definitely, you know, you can see everything that's in there. Temporary employee salary, regular, and then towards the bottom is going to be specifically for TIF is where we have the largest portion of where our grants are coming from, and then also where 40 North, their activities and all the programs that they have taken over. So the utility box murals, the mural program, Poet Laureate. So there's a lot. The document's pretty huge to break down, and it's also a working document, but this is sort of like a general view. But in terms of the first little move, which is increase funding for the arts grants and for public art installation and maintenance, if we could go in a line if we want to go over it again, or if you have any.
Could we start on this side
Sure.
because they didn't get.
Yeah, that's
to say
true.
anything.
Yeah, Xander, you want to?
All right. I mean, I'm fine with also just having a discussion too, but
Yeah.
you know, I'm in favor of this too. I do think that the cost is a significant thing to consider, especially when it comes to murals and maintenance. I think a good example is the asphalt mural, which those typically have a shorter lifetime, and so there will be, you know, let's say 3 to 5 years, probably a need to replace it. But I also want to make sure that we are, you know, competitive when we're doing national searches with the appropriate stipends for artists, so that they're getting paid fairly too. But that's just only going to increase costs. And so, I mean, I was just looking at, you know, if we provide paint, for example, you know, we're talking over, for something of that size, that's something that would be over $1,000. If we were paying artists, you know, $2 a square foot, which is incredibly low, you know, for something that is that size would be, you know, quite significant too. And so for an asphalt mural to replace that one, if we wanted to be competitive, we're talking about well over probably $10,000, right? So just things to consider. I know there is a desire for more murals. And it doesn't have to be as big as that one, but that cost is definitely on my mind. So, but that all comes from the TIF fund for murals. Is that correct?
The market mural was a little bit of a different situation just because that was part of the public realm projects that we've been doing. So the funding for that did come out of TIF, but it wasn't like our public arts pot of TIF. It was from the city's public realm pot.
Okay. Got it. Thank you.
Did the mall participate in that also?
The mall was a supporter. But like they gave us their blessing to do that because they have a lease from the city for the parking lot.
I see.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, it could be an open discussion. I don't want to put anyone on the spot to discuss little moves.
I mean, I'll just reiterate what Sandra said. That was great.
And I would add what Sandra's saying too. Is there a way to do a kind of calculation of like a average time it would take, for example, to do a mural of such and such size, you know, on a wall versus on a, you know, on a ground surface, to kind of get a calculation for a not only competitive but you know kind of stipend to give the artist, but also something that really is like reflects the amount of time that they're putting into it, because you know with the one across the street there was a lot of volunteer involvement in it, but also he also spent much more, and you did too, and his family spent a lot more time. And if you were to add up all those hours of not only the art, it's just you're getting paid very, very little, but I also agree too that $10,000 seems to be the rate that makes more sense for these kinds of huge projects than like $2,000, $3,000, $4,000. And also I was wondering then, what does it take in the city to lobby for an increase to the commission to be able to get more funding from year to year? Who makes those decisions? All of that, because we've had some amazing artists and from all over the world, and I've always been very surprised at how they've accepted these offers for such low kinds of offers of the grants. So anyway.
Yeah, I think that with a market mural project, it was definitely more community engagement focused, and that the point was to have this artist design, but be working with the community to do it. I feel like this is probably, if not the largest mural in Champaign County, it's up there. It's probably in the top 3, but I feel like it is the biggest one square footage wise. So possibly lesson learned when it comes to just relying on volunteers so much. But what's really great about just working with 40 North is they really have been pushing with the larger projects being, and with the smaller projects, they try to, of course. So the larger projects really making sure that there's the right amount of funds for the artist, for the materials, and just the situation, because so many locations have just different scenarios and factors. So yeah, but there is some formulas, and we did use some formulas, but like, as you know, with the surface texture of that, it just went beyond what our sort of mapped out worst case scenario was for how much paint we would need. So, yeah.
Have you done things like that with other projects? If you look back at the history of the various projects we've inaugurated, the lessons that we've learned from doing those kind of projects, and what seems to be a better direction to go in? Or do we have that data yet?
Well, definitely with the murals, we can see how much we've paid artists. We can see that with some of the grant opportunities. So, in the past, some of the grants have gone to mural projects and haven't really been enough funds for the projects. So, in terms of like arts grants, being where murals are, I would just based off of what I've seen, I would kind of suggest to not go in that direction and to save those mural projects to be funded by the mural program that we have. So it's a little bit different, but just because it's a lot of work and throwing in the sun and an outdoor location, I think it's best to just make sure that everyone's, getting paid what they need to do something like that.
Are there any support funds? I constantly read these different articles that come out of the state Arts Council, and there are programs that they're looking for murals right now, for example, or recently. Do we have a chance of getting any state support?
State support, if there are grants, it's definitely something that Kelly and Elsie and I will look into. But like I've applied to get the Bloomberg Asphalt Art Grant, which is where it kind of all started with the market mural. Super competitive international grant. We did not get it. They did have they had some feedback for us because it was very focused on like traffic calming and safety. So, if there was like an area that was higher risk on the road that needed some traffic slowing, that might have been like a more successful application. So it's really working with Public Works too and making sure that we're all on the same page with like where we want to put art and how we can make it work. Mm-hmm. But in terms of like budget and sort of shifting things to make more sense, I believe that that's where, forgetting the terminology of some of these things, but basically working with submitting a form that is asking for a certain increase for various reasons. And so I think that that's definitely something that I would like to work towards, is sort of looking at, okay, right now we've allocated this much to the mural program, but based on how what we currently have as the budget for the mural program is X, that means that the size can only be this much, which would be little or something like that. So maybe, estimating for the future, like, there are some areas we've been looking at, so let's look at those square footage amounts and then maybe base the numbers off of some future ideas. And then when it comes to maintenance, like Xander said, we installed the market mural this past summer, so maybe when it's fiscal year 2027, we would include possibly like the maintenance of a new one there, if that was needed.
Or at least to refresh it if it needs updating.
Yeah, I'm also thinking of, going back to the conversation about the utility boxes, is that, in terms of what people can see from the public rights of way, is that, there's only so many utility boxes, right? There's only so many decent outdoor mural walls and, and lots or intersections where you can do asphalt murals. And so even thinking of the long view, let's say a 10-year plan, it's like we have, 4 utility boxes that are going to get replaced in the year 2026, and we can say that it's going to cost $1,500. We can then start replacing them and have sort of just that roadmap so that we can continue to have fresh public art, and what that cost will be. I will say too, just with going back to this little move point, not to get away too much about the public art installation and maintenance, but it's also increased funding for arts grants generally here, which I think, for those that participated in the granting jury process, I think it was that we had the most requests for funding this year. Is that correct in me saying that? or that we had a record high number of applicants and a record high number of projects. And so there is clearly demand for this funding, and so I would be in favor of that, especially if it's outsourcing arts programming to the community and not having it, say, fall on your shoulders for craft happy hours, for example. So I would also be in favor of increasing that, but I think there's probably going to need to be a trade-off in terms of what we can actually accomplish. You know, are we going to give more money out to the community versus doing public art installations? You know, what's the best way forward here?
And I think that you've probably all heard me say this before, yeah, it's been in our meetings that $90,000 are distributed among the arts grants, among the 3 tiers. And so there has definitely been a shift towards more of the projects that are requesting funding are the tier 1 and the 2, which kind of has skewed the amount available for the tier 3, which means that if they're getting less money, but they have the big projects that, similar to the mural, where we're offering a smaller amount for a bigger project, that's making it really hard for a bigger project to happen. So, yeah, so there's that to think about too.
Have been any push about that sort of thing, like from the city council?
I'm going to be meeting this week with my supervisor to kind of discuss that. So hopefully I'll have some updates. Shall we move to the next, or did you have something?
I guess my one thing was that maybe we could make a goal for the commission to maybe on a quarterly basis look at the budget, and if there are projects that we know that aren't happening, or even it could be like a twice a year, or middle of the year, 6 months into the budget, we could kind of assess what projects maybe had to be canceled, and so if there'd be any support that the commission can do to help further recommendations for funding use for the rest of the 6 months, so that we make sure that, for instance, if we have an opportunity for another mural, or to pay a little bit extra stipend for upcoming programs for the rest of that 6 months, that we're able to kind of use any unused money and filter it that way, so that we're fully utilizing it. Because my only worry is that the city, I am interested in the submitting the form to increase funds, but I think if the city is seeing us not use say 30%, I'm just making that number up, but say they're saying, oh, well, you're not using 30%, so we're not going to increase your budget. I think that would be kind of something that we could work together with you on, and help be advocates for utilizing that funding before the fiscal year is over.
Definitely. I really would love to add to January a discussion, which is what you're talking about. And I think you mentioned it in the last meeting as well, is talking about how do we deal with the funds that are either left or disappear when a grantee is unable to do their project that they already, because the funds, as soon as they sign those agreements and everything's kind of squared away, the money is directly tied to that person and cannot be given to anyone else. If they decide to cancel and we're within a fiscal year, then that money could go back into the arts pot. But if not, then it disappears. So it would be great to, and there's so many reasons why a project might not happen. Illness, someone moves away, some, big life changes that people have. So, but either way, it's, it's money that is not getting used. So we do have to kind of deal with that. But that might be a good conversation to have, is best practice sort of thing for that.
Has there ever been any discussion or suggestion that the applicants have to find some matching funds in order to receive the grant?
For the bigger tier, for tier 2 and 3,
yeah.
Tier 1 is very much anyone can apply for the amount that's in that range, and they don't have to really have anything else
Right.
except for their word that they're gonna finish it. So, yeah, but we can definitely talk about that at a different discussion. Feedback on second little move, which is host one large signature event annually to attract residents and visitors to the community. And I just wanted to add that 40 North is doing Fall Fusion, which falls under like us, because we're contracting them to do it. And in no way is this as big as Sweet Corn or anything like that. So I think that when we see this, that's feedback from the community who really appreciated that event. And so I think that's what we're seeing here is that.
Overall, which events draw the most audience? Can you tell? Is it because in the fall when the weather's better, or?
Events that we have, like as the city that hosts them, I mean, right now it's been a long time. I think Downtown Get Down had a really good turnout. Fall Fusion is kind of like a way to bring something like that back. But like Sweet Corn, for instance, was not run by the city. It was run by the Downtown Business Association.
About the statistics and where do you put your efforts so you get the
Yep.
most return on your investment?
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense that it would be based on community feedback going to Sweet Corn, because that was my main comment I had written down was, I think that time of year is very effective because everyone's moving back, everyone's starting their academic year jobs again, people are looking to meet new people and do something outside. And then my sort of follow-up question from that is, are we wanting to create new events or promote and expand events that we've already been participating in terms of this signature event?
It says host. So I'm guessing that either means like, okay, we started Fall Fusion last year. We really want to make it our big thing that we do, and make sure we're really funding that or something. Or it could be something new. It could be putting out some sort of like call for large festival or something like that, and then someone else is doing it, but we're hosting it or something like that. So I think there are some options.
I wonder if there's a way to, like, for you and the city to, like, identify some of the businesses and folks in town who have done these festivals quite well, that we have also funded, that can be like a, I don't know, an ad hoc committee of sorts that can kind of help give you ideas if this is something that the city wants to do, on how to put something together like in the fall event, a Fall Fusion or something like that, and make it an annual event. It's never going to be as big as Sweet Corn. Sweet Corn is a whole different animal. But I mean, just a really nice event that really showcases how different Urbana is as a city in comparison to Champaign too. Not in all, and having its own character. That I think sometimes we're just looking at the Rose Bowl is now an important venue for so many people. But also seeing how like Urbana can kind of make its stamp a little bit. I find that when you see there's like this hope for Urbana. I always feel when I find out that like the cafeteria was closed, and now there's going to be another one in Elm City coming in. But there's just like, and then of course Lincoln Square Mall has always been on this kind of like. Yeah, there's just like, it needs something, I think, if the businesses themselves aren't coming in and growing or changing or, to kind of make Urbana feel that kind of vibrancy, I think, that exists here, but it doesn't have a kind of, I don't know, it's hard to explain, but I've been feeling that a lot lately, so.
Postmark, how are the effects of the new Postmark programs? Because they're happening on a monthly basis, and I think they're making an impact, aren't they?
I think they're making a really big impact. I think it's not necessarily an event that's The goal is to draw in hundreds of people, but I think it's definitely an event that is bringing in people who live here but are maybe new to certain areas downtown, and incorporating community organizations into the sort of event space, and inviting organizations to be partnering with 40 North to showcase, dancing, or, participate in art making. So I think it's totally a different sort of feel than like just a large event.
I feel like the impact of what they're doing has been very productive.
I think it's been productive and positive. I think that it's doing a lot of community building, which I think is a really important aspect of having a city like ours, taking care of it.
I'll just say that in a previous life, having done large public events, the last one being Street Fest in Champaign in 2023, that one had some good, that has a brand awareness because it's been around for a while. But, again, the cost of doing that was about $13,000 conservatively, and it took 1.5 full-time equivalent staff people for about 2 to 3 months to put that together. So I do have some reservations about the city, and I'm assuming that means you, organizing a signature event. Unless it's a all hands on deck sort of situation where everyone's pitching in, but I would like to see more details about that. I do think that there's a lot of potential with Fall Fusion. It's only occurred 2 years now. Postmark has only gone through, a year in total. But I like the idea of regularly occurring program. I think that does a much better job of cultivating community, which might be a little bit more on brand for Urbana than just a one-off event that happens every year. And yeah, again, it's about funding. And so, looking at all of the little moves, if I were to prioritize which of these, if in a world with limited resources, I would probably put signature event at the bottom in terms of what I would put resources towards personally.
And the Little Move falls, we're like project lead on these, as you see on this page, but this is like the city as a whole moving forward. So like when I look at host large signature event, I'm definitely not thinking about me doing it. I'm thinking about the city is investing in a team, creating job opportunities to have people who are building something like this. So to me, that's like an option, or that's like a way of seeing it. But yes.
One little piece is, I think it would behoove us to try and really put money in the larger events, like the tier 3, the next few years, while we're trying to decide what like this big signature event would be, if the city really wants to further that. So if we could, fight for funding for tier 3 so that they're able to do as much as possible with Pygmalion or their Black and African Arts Festival and Pride, and there's a few others, I believe, but that could be worthwhile just to see how much of a scale we could go. And my only other comment would be to require them to not be on the same day, so that we could have 3 big events rather than, I think they build off of each other, but I think it would be interesting to see how big, Pygmalion could get on its own, or the Black and African Arts Festival on its own. Mini signature event.
Any thought of having some arts organizations collaborate together to create something spectacular rather than everybody doing their own thing?
I think a lot of it is happening. I think that the collaborations are definitely occurring, but I feel like there's always room for more of that happening. Like Pride is an example of so many organizations coming together to, co-sponsor and all. I mean, if you look at co-sponsors for all of these events, I think that's an easy way of seeing who partners with who and who's always wanting to be a part of things. Like Park District is, partnering with a lot of things all the time. So
A lot of potential in the Park District too, because they have so much space that sometimes when I think about going through the park and actually seeing how large it is, that there's a lot of space where we could maybe utilize it even more.
I know that not all of these little moves might be jumping out, but if anyone does have, any thoughts on just any of these particular ones here, feel free to go for it.
All right, so I did have a question about the event permitting process. Have you heard from folks, I think narrowing it down just to the large events, the Pygmalion, Pride, Folk and Roots, those larger ones, what are some of the issues that they have with working with the city on event permitting, street closures and parking lot closures, fire and alcohol?
So the street closures is probably the biggest one.
Okay.
It's so expensive for the smaller organizations or even the bigger organizations that we have in town. Mm-hmm. So I would say that's probably it's the cost of that.
What goes into that expense exactly? How does that work from their point of view?
So the organizations will submit an application for their special events with Public Works, and then Public Works will, based on their application, sort of provide services, and they're charging for those services, so it's pretty much like labor and time and whatever equipment they might need to use. So I have not personally seen a breakdown for that, but it can be, upwards to $5,000 for a street closure for one day.
And does that also include police attending, or I guess enforcing traffic safety types of things?
So.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, those are the complaints that I heard as well, mostly from Pride Fest. One of the things I remember, and also from Fall Fusion as well, bringing out the giant cement barricades that, when you do street closures, and again, not to, say that Champaign does it differently, but, they just have the type 3 barricades, which are not, they just unload them easily. They have guys on a truck, they unload them onto the street. They don't have to bring in a big lift to drop these cement barricades, which, if you just think about the time that is involved with that, and if say, a grantee is getting funding from Urbana Arts and Culture, and then they have to use those funds to pay back the city, that just seems weird to me. And I just wonder if there's a better process just to waive those fees, and if that's something that Public Works or the police department are thinking about. Because I think that would open up maybe the opportunity for a lot more events to come through if they are not having to pay $3,000, $5,000 back to the city to host an event to support the city,
I think there's a parking consideration. I remember when the Rose Bowl began to start having the tent up during the pandemic, and some of the local owners were worried about the parking revenue that was being lost at the time. So I can imagine there might be some concerns about the loss of parking revenue during an event.
I think that there was some math calculated with all the meters and the amount of money that they can collect. And it's actually, everything's kind of relative, but it was a very small amount.
Good.
And so when it comes to the city collecting, money for the meters, and that money and then outweighing it with like community building and having events. So Roseville has their lease for that parking lot because it makes much more sense to allow a business to do so much programming for the community than, worry about the quarters lost
I
at
remember
the
that.
meters.
That was the outcome of that investigation.
Yep.
But it all goes into the pot, so to speak, to stir it up.
Well, and I think if you had a chance to look at the GIS thing, that the comp plan online, they have a whole interactive thing that you can go through. I mean, they basically lay out that, I mean, even just for the arts grants, the amount of money that goes out in arts grants more than comes back in tax revenue. So, I mean, I don't understand the argument that there's like a negative impact. So, but I do encourage everyone to go check it out because it does lay it out pretty nicely.
Is that the Examiner Urbana? Is that what you're?
Yes, I believe so, yeah.
Yeah, that's on our website, the city's website, and you guys probably saw that at some point, but it just has like the breakdown of just all of the different departments, and so that's pretty cool.
I thought they were very thorough.
Mm-hmm.
I also
Yeah.
Sorry. I also concur about waiving event permitting for any funded Urbana Arts and Culture Program grant. But I also think beyond that, I know the hardest part is, at least for like a food vendor, would be working with the health department. I think the Public Works overall has been really easy to work with. I do think, yeah, there's like special charges for alcohol, like alcohol permit and event or space permit if you're using streets. But I think if there is ways that the city could also work with the health department in some way to kind of come up with a way to streamline that process. Because it's usually like two separate applications, one for the city with alcohol and the event, and then another application for the health department. I guess that makes sense.
And
that
the
it has to be separate.
state?
And the state.
I think there's a whole nother fee from the state as well. A lot.
Yeah. So.
Are there insurance liabilities? Do they have to post a certain amount of insurance to cover an event?
Yeah.
Yep.
I have a question that sort of loops in the next bullet. How would all this be affected by establishing a tourism and entertainment district? I'm not sure if that's involved with any of these processes as well.
Yeah, I think that this one's an interesting one. And I think I mentioned this last month, but like I definitely did not write any of this. It was just like the people who did tried to get information from different departments and staff. But this one I find interesting because really this downtown tourism or a social district can really blossom based on some of these other things. So it's like if we can have more events downtown, that'll sort of like fuel that social district. If we're able to make it so that people can get, liquor licenses and we can, close streets more to be able to walk around freely during an event and not worry about traffic, that kind of creates that space too. So I think that by evaluating the merits of establishing a downtown tourism district, that seems like an action item for sort of like the sort of people who make decisions at the city overall. But when we look at we can look at our neighbor city, Champaign, and they're kind of starting to establish their social district and have more events and create space and whatnot. So, and of course, there's just endless examples of other cities of comparable size in America. So I think that by maybe the city of Urbana looking at that more, they can sort of see, yeah, this helps economically and for bringing joy to the community.
Okay, I guess it wasn't clear to me if district is an official designation that would then make permits faster and more streamlined. I'm not sure how that works.
Like if we decide that there's an area is that what you mean?
Pretty
Kylie?
much, yes.
I feel like if we, or not we, but if Public Works and some of the other people at the city really commit to having like a certain area mapped out where it's easy or makes sense for them to close a street, or it's easy to block off for open alcohol containers, that that could be considered the district, but it hasn't been like, I don't think time's been put into mapping that out yet.
Okay, thank you.
One thing, piggybacking off of what Alicia had mentioned about what the city as a whole can do to help fill businesses that are any empty business that's in downtown Urbana. I wonder down the line, like as a way of trying to create a tourism or entertainment district, if there could be like tax write-offs or tax incentives or something like that to get businesses into those spaces. Or
There are some.
I know there's like a new business grant, or usually it's like $1,000 or something like that, or maybe that there's ways. I know initially a couple years ago there was like a study, kind of case study on downtown Urbana, and one of the ideas was trying to have like Main Street, for example, have all the businesses on the first level or street level to be commercial businesses, things that can attract more shoppers rather than having offices or things like that. That aren't really open to the public. So yeah, I mean, it'd be amazing to have a tourism and entertainment district. I just would hope that we would have kind of like full downtown area with no empty spots, because I think that's the biggest complaint that I've heard about downtown Urbana, is that there's some dead zones.
Yeah.
That once the hotel is open and the H Mart is open, that's going to change the whole process a little bit?
I think that in the next couple of years, there's going to be so much just growth, and things are going to get filled up more downtown, and like also kind of expanded just a little bit more too. So maybe that will help the city make some, bigger decisions when it comes to that.
Has there been any involvement since that food court on Broadway was closing up? Has there been any interest in opening a new business or doing something different in that space?
I'm not certain on details, but I know that for the public to keep eyes on things, there's always Zillow and looking at what's happening.
It sold,
but
didn't it?
I think it has sold. Yeah. So, but I think that when you see a new space, I think that there's a chance that people have already had their eyes on it. So it's kind of a matter of those incentives and how quickly things can happen. I know that there's a facade grant for downtown or businesses in the TIF district, and also the new signage grant might be what you were talking about, Sarah, the new businesses, but so that businesses can at least get, some funding for like making their, front and their sign kind of pop. Well, the last bullet, I think, was covered in some of the other points too, but if anyone had anything to say.
Well, just a question for you. Do you feel like the work that you do with the Urbana Arts and Culture program, social media, newsletters, do you think that's been effective? Are you seeing growth there? Are there other, communication channels that y'all are looking into to get information out to people about all the events and things that are happening?
Yeah, I think that the newsletter really helps. There wasn't really a consistent newsletter in previous years, so I think that people really look forward to getting that. I think it's pretty much every Monday that it's sent out, and it's just what's coming up. And I attend a lot of events around town, and I do hear that people are seeing it on either the newsletter or Smile Politely or Instagram and Facebook. So that seems to be really good. And of course, we have our communications person here at the city, and she does a really great job at finding different avenues to share press releases and to get advertisements like on Smile Politely or in the News Gazette, things like that. So I think that really helps. But also by partnering with other people and them spreading their word to their network, it definitely helps for sharing when events are happening.
Live radio at all?
Yes.
Popular radio stations around the region?
Yeah. I don't know how much that was done in the past, but for instance, the farmers market always has radio ads during the market season. We did that for the night market, and it really helped, and people definitely gave us feedback on hearing about it through WILL and Illinois Soul. And so we've tried to, reach out and really reach all the medias. Well, if that's maybe everything from this discussion, I have notes that I'm going to type up and give to staff so that they can take a look. And if you are thinking about it and you're just like, you know what, I really want to rephrase what I said, feel free to email me. And they're not like on a big rush or anything for this, so I can definitely send this. And if you have more things you want to add over the next month or so, definitely let me know.
One quick question to get back to this discussion a little bit. Can you inform us of how does the city determine what kinds of businesses they would like to see in the downtown area, and how do they attract them? In other words, do they assess like, oh, we need more little gift shops, or we need some kind of more cafes of certain sort of restaurants or whatever? Is there kind of a discussion around those issues and how then to attract investors who will come in and people who will set up businesses of different categories that they're looking for?
I'm not too familiar with that. We don't have the economic development team that we did before, so there's no one who's directly talking to businesses in that sort of intimate way, or new businesses. But we do have a consultant who does a lot of things, and some of that is keeping tabs on spaces that are open downtown and just connecting people to the right resources. So yeah, I think that my answer is going to be no, as far as I know, and hopefully that's something that can change quickly, because I think it's super necessary to be more aware and active about that. But I think that what little help is happening would be from that person who is, I just can't remember what their title is, but Andrea Rudy's been really active when it comes to trying to connect people with locations and things of that nature. I have my personal preferences of things that I'd like in my downtown as a resident, but that doesn't count.
Sorry, the last thing I'll say is kind of aligning with what you just had mentioned, that I think one of the best ways to actually fulfill the goals is to make sure that we have a full economic development team, so that these projects can be furthered. So I guess I wonder if that would be a recommendation for the city as a whole when looking at budgets for the Imagine Urbana, to make sure that this is going to be something that will be invested in with personnel. But thanks for everything that you're doing.
Thanks.
Up with event planners and people in the same position that you do and your job from other communities to find, or just, you know, through the grapevine, do you hear things that really work well in another community versus our community? But it also depends on the people who live there, let's face it. It can make a difference. But do you hear things from time to time that are worth exploring?
I definitely do. I think that one of the great things about being part of like the arts like leadership kind of role is just meeting other people. So I'm part of the local arts network, which is sort of like a branch from the Arts Alliance in Illinois. And so we have maybe like once a year we'll meet and talk about projects. So the last one that I went to was in Bloomington, and people were asking about our utility box murals, and they were like, so how do you get it printed? So who's doing the, you know, wrapping? And I was like, yay, I can just brag about this program. So
That's great.
yeah, and I'm doing the same thing with other, you know, organizations in town. Illinois Art Station in Normal is like an art sort of place for, I think it's education mostly, but they've been doing some really cool things. So yeah, I keep an eye on social media, but then also when I go to conferences and those meetups for the local arts network.
Helps.
Yeah, it does. Great. Well, this is definitely the end of my report and of our discussion, unless anyone has more that they'd like to add.
Like we're all good for this?
Right.
Do we have anything else to add to the meeting, or any announcements? I invite you to all to Cranach for the Holiday Pops tomorrow with the Champaign-Urbana Symphony and the Oratorio Society and the Children's Choir. It's our annual, very festive Holiday Pops concert.
Time does it start?
7:30 in the Great Hall.
Common Ground has a call for art, so if you're interested in submitting your artwork, it's a really simple application. We just are looking for applicants, so yeah.
Well, then maybe we need someone to suggest that we adjourn? Someone to second the motion?
Motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
We are adjourned. Thank you all.